aligning the skeleton vertically, letting the muscles hang off the bones, releasing the abdomen. Noticing the sensation on the bottom of the feet, feeling of gravity. On each out breath, see if you can release some sort of tension, something that wasn't released before. And lightly bringing the hands in front, holding the ball. And just take a moment to rehang, weight underside. As soon as we do the smallest motion, even something like that, notice the pulling in, the pulling up, or a simply contraction. So I think it was even last class, we're really working on minimizing. You're just basically, everything's dropping. Yeah, we're doing arm drops and arm swings. You're just before that happens, just less than a hair breadth from that. So you bring that quality and feeling into it. You're not holding anything. You're hanging, but you happen to have a slightly different shape. So it's actually a good Qigong standing position. Anything can be. So we have this. Anything we do can be Qigong standing. In fact, another time we'll work on traditional shapes of Tai Chi. Those become other shapes for standing practice. So of course, shoulders are sitting completely. Let just the weight of the arms themselves pull the shoulder joints open. Want to make sure that we're not collapsed. So the elbows are slightly forward. And that's because, it's not because you're flexing anything, but because the joints are open, if not expanding. So that kind of just makes everything a little bigger in shape. Instead of tight and collapsed, things are bigger, but you're not holding yourself up in a muscular way. Breathing in, that ball rotates. Breathing out, hands are the other way. And take a moment again to set the shoulders, release. Breathing in is opening, expanding. Breathing out is coming back to holding the ball. So you can have a gentle rising and sinking as well with the legs, not with the shoulders. And once you have a sense of that movement, take the muscle out of it more and more. Again, relating back to the last class, it's like you're just away from this, arms just falling. Even as you're moving them, they could fall at any time. So, minimizing muscular work, just the movement of mind and breath, letting those shoulder joints open more and more. And just to add a bit more to this, as you breathe out, let the hip cage hang, fall away from the head. So the spine is pulled long. So each out breath is another opportunity to release the lower back and hang the hips, stretch the spine. And you'll probably slow down quite a bit, even more than what you were when you started, when you focus on using less and less and less, and just the movement of your mind and breath. And then into a little different shape, a little different movement. It's reminiscent of serving tea or parting horse's mane. And again, that holding the ball will alternate each time. And again, taking all that extra stuff out of the arms and all the extra tension out of the body, wherever it may be. As a general guideline, and it's only a general guideline, in Tai Chi and Qigong, the rising is the in-breath, sinking is the out-breath. Again, that's maybe most of the time, but definitely not all the time. So if you've been rising, you've been breathing in here, rising, breathing out here, reverse it. So that you're breathing in as you sink and come to hold the ball, and breathe out as you rise and send the hands out. And as you breathe in, as you sink, you might notice an increasing of internal pressure in the torso, abdomen. And that's very stimulative of chi. Breathing in, increasing the internal pressure, breathing out. Take the work out of the shoulders and arms. And letting the hands descend as if floating down through water. Let the spine grow tall and long as the weight descends. Release the abdomen. Hands resting at the navel. And we're going to rotate just from the waist, not from the hips. Hips are going to stay here. The hips are in a brace or in a bracket. You turn from the belly button. Breathe out as you turn, breathe in as you come back. So from the belly button up, turns. Come back. So endeavor to keep those hips straight forward, and just the spine turns from the belly button up. So that's an isolated turn. Breathing out as you turn, breathe in as you come back to center. Okay. Now, one hand at the belly button, one hand at the sternum. Same thing, but we're going to isolate it or segment it a bit more. When we turn, everything turns. So turn from the belly button up as far as comfortable. And then just the belly button comes back, leave the chest where it is, and then the chest is pulled back. Go the other way. So from here up, everything turns. And then come back with the belly button, leave the chest where it is, and then the chest is pulled back. Turn from the belly button up. Bring the belly button back, followed by the chest. A little bit, slightly more articulation. Same thing, start from the belly button, everything turns. Wherever you stop, see if you can turn a bit more from the sternum up. Bring the belly button back, bring the sternum back. Turn everything from the belly button up as far as comfortable, and see if from the sternum up can turn a bit more. Then bring the belly button back first, and then from the sternum. Make sure you don't hold your breath at all. Both hands slide down to below the navel and just become very conscious of the dantian, the core, the bowl of the hips. Allow your weight to sink, your tensions to flow down, but no effect on the skeletal structure. It stays upright and sharp. Each out breath, more is released down. Releasing everything down except the bones. Tissues, muscles, tensions, energy, everything. But the bones stay pristine. Each out breath, releasing even more down. And a little wider. Knees bent. Palms together. We're going to push the hands one way and turn the head the other way. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Then bring it back through center, pushing the other way. Head turns the other way.
And so are we wanting to keep our hips sort of
everything-
we're not
everything-
moving from the,
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you. So this is stationary here. This is on a bracket. As far as comfortable there, turn the head the other way. Shoulders stay down. Feel a nice stretch in the spine, neck, upper back, ribs. The effect in the internal organs. Nice and smooth. Continuous breathing. And we can add a bit more to that. Add a weight shift. So hands and weight go the same way. Head turns the opposite way as the arms and weight shift. Hips face forward the whole time. Shoulders down. Swimming dragon, it's called. Okay, back to center, inch your feet in. Want you in awareness, hang out. And from here, we're just going to drop the arms and go into an arm swing, just using completely natural forces, gravity, momentum. So as we drop the hands, we're just going to let them swing and continue to swing with just your intention. So really minimize arm muscles to keep it going. Just the intention of swinging them down is enough to keep them going. Knees are bent, abdomen is released. Letting gravity work through those arms and shoulders. Breathing in, abdomen and torso expands. Breathing out, abdomen and torso releases back. Let the elbow joints release and open. Okay, then we're going to move into another arm swing, actually one that we did the other class or two back, where it's this action here. And we're going to start with this flowing action. It's chi based in that it's like you're doing it in water. So it's not gravity driving everything yet. That's body based. This is chi based. So again, how it would be as if you're doing this in water. And eventually you want to have that happen because of the chi itself. In other words, the air around you is thick, moving through a medium, not just empty air. And that's why it's more slow when flowing. Shoulders come up, pulling the elbows up, pulling the wrists up, and eventually the hands and fingers. Shoulders drop down, drags the elbows down, followed by the wrists, hands, and fingers. If you're doing it in water, that's exactly what would happen. If you're just touching the bottom of the pool and you kind of just bounce off the bottom, push off the bottom, push into the bottom of the pool, that, just like there's wave in the water, the wave goes through your body. And it draws the shoulders up and slightly forward, followed by the elbows. Shoulders drop down and roll back. That's a small motion. If I just isolate that, forward and up, back and down, forward. So it's up, slightly forward, and settling back. And that buoys the arms. If I make just the bottom part, initial part. In fact, it's good to kind of play with that. And it's just like as if you were in a pool of water up to about maybe the neck of water, push off the bottom of the pool and have the intention to have that move through your body. It's like a wave through your body. Coming down, drop down your center line, down your center of your body, shoulders fall back and down. So and just imagine, eventually you'll feel the thickness of the air is what determines the movement, the quality of the movement, and the quality of the speed of the arms. So at the top here, palms are facing chest. Is about a fist width away from the chest. The wrists are about a fist width away. So not totally collapsed, not lots of space, about a fist width. Elbows are about a fist width away from the ribs. Pushing off the ground sends a wave through your body, which flares the shoulders and arms out. Dropping down with gravity. Pushing off the ground, wave through your body, flares the arms out. Okay, now just letting that happen with gravity. So this is more working the physical joints and tissues, encouraging the tissues and joints to release and let go, so that when we go back to that Qi version, the Qi Kong version, and we go into our Tai Chi, our body is becoming a better vessel. The body's becoming softer, more released, more open. So we have more Qi to work with. It becomes more of a Qi movement, or Tai Chi becomes more Qi filled because we've opened the body, loosened the body, relaxed the body, released the body. So they work together. So you want to have a distinct difference between the two. So this is that conditioning the physical body, and that's just gravity and momentum. Now we have enough, we have the intention to have the right shape. We talked about shoulders rolling up and slightly forward, bent elbows, wrist, hand, shoulders settling down and back, takes the elbows down. So once the mind and body has a good sense of that coordination, we can just let it go with gravity, completely with gravity and momentum. Now, we'll just review. This is a relatively simple approach. The other approach is 3 or 4 arm swings on the way down, 3 or 4 arm swings on the way up. So if we take that version for a moment, breathing in on the way up, breathing out on the way down. It takes a little while to get the coordination of, again, the shape and the sequence that we want. Sequence that we want coming through the body, through the torso, creating the sequence of the effect we want. And then the coordination of rising and sinking. It takes a while for the mind and body to know it. And once the body knows it, you can let go more. Okay, now what I want to do for our purposes now is not to go down and up 3 swings, but just to go here, how we started, just as we started. So just using this action here to be enough to keep the arms going. And so each time you press into the ground, it's another wave that moves through your body. And of course, dropping down brings those arms down completely for you. So again, once the body knows this movement, you can release even more until you're just completely just working with gravity and momentum to do all this for you. Okay, now we're going to take this movement and isolate it to draw something out of it, to mine something out of it. So it's going to be a very short amount of time, the segment as our study. We can artificially elongate that time a little bit, but not too much, because then we'll be using a lot of muscle and effort. Basically, what I want to do is isolate that hang. Isolating that hang, prolonging that hang just before the arms drop again. So it looks something like this. I'm still just using gravity on the way down and gravity momentum on the way up. But I want to elongate that hang time, that fraction of a moment. Of course, when we normally do it, it's just a very, very small amount of time, fraction of a second. But in that fraction of a moment, it's weightless, completely weightless. At that section where the arm transitions from going up to going down, in between that place between up and down, it's completely weightless. Just as if we're in outer space. So we want to send our awareness into that segment, into that moment. So we can kind of artificially elongate it and do the best to pretend it's just hanging out there. But eventually our mind will get sharp enough, fine enough and sharp enough that that fraction of a second, we can kind of dwell in there and get something out of that mind. But for now, you can kind of pretend you're weightless here. Pretend you're weightless. You really can elongate that feeling. You can really elongate that idea and that feeling of being weightless right here, down. Weightless, down. Weightless, down. Swinging up with momentum, weightless, down with gravity. Swinging up, momentum, weightless, and just let gravity work there. So best you can, dwell in that time right there, the feeling of weightless, zero weight, just hanging with no forces working on you. Try not to be there so long that you are holding yourself up, or try not to physically hold yourself up, because that's not the feeling of weightless. So you want to sneak right into that little crack of time, that little line, this transition segment between up and down. In that little transition, and that little fine line, that little segment, it's completely free, weightless. And once you do have a sense of that weightless quality, you can elongate it to be a little bit longer in time. Okay, now take that feeling of that weightlessness into holding the ball and see if you can maintain that feeling. Try to remember that feeling, put that memory back in your arms of being weightless, just hanging there in space. Where you're floating in water is another, that gives the same sort of quality, where especially the arms, eventually it'll be the whole body, but you probably want to focus on the arms right now. If you were in water, they would just hang there. If you capture that moment there, that's the feeling of being in water or being weightless. Now we want to have that feeling through the whole move. Coming back to hold the ball as well. Right there. Have that, see if you can carry that feeling. Okay, let's go back. Just a little, we'll keep returning back to it to remind ourselves about that feeling. Right there. Right there. There. 0 point. 0 point. Free. No forces impinging on you. Right there, that freeness. So after a couple more of these, when you have some sort of remembrance, some sort of memory of that quality, go to the other side, hold the ball, but you're really still floating or hanging or floating. The same quality in that moment where you're totally free. Bring some of that quality with you into the Tai Chi movement. Remember the feeling if you're in the water, just touching the bottom of the pool and you're in water, how your abdomen just releases, right? All the pressure is released. The abdomen releases. So even remember that, it's in the abdomen as well. Okay, let's go back a little bit again. See if you can recreate, re-engage with that 0 point. That 0 point in the gravity field, right there. Right there. So that's where I enter into as much as I can with my awareness. There, I hang out there in my mind. There, that freeness. So we'll just pause for a moment perhaps. So not the, when we come up, we can feel pressure, even if we're quite relaxed and not using a lot of muscle. Hopefully that's the case. But even with that, we feel pressure coming up. It's just like if we're in the water and we're doing this, we'll feel the pressure against our arm, right? Especially if we're in water. So water is the same as the air for us, especially because the air gets thicker for us. It becomes like water. So there's pressure, there's forces. It's just momentum changing direction, changing angle. It creates pressure, force. Coming down creates pressure, force. So we want to be in that space, that segment, where there's no pressure, no force, zero. So maybe you can feel the pressure on your arms coming up and the pressure coming down. Just the pressure of gravity or going against gravity or speeding up. But up here, zero forces, zero pressure. And eventually we can hang out there with our mind, get deeper into that segment, capture that feeling, remember that feeling, take it into stationary brush knees. Your arms are continually here, continually here, continually here. See if you can carry that weightless quality, that zero force feeling throughout the movement. At the very least, you may find this really helps take more of the muscle out of it than you have been able to before. Just hanging out, either floating in space or floating in water. Just before it drops, if you're on Earth, just before it drops. Here it's not dropping because it's weightless. It's not dropping here. Right there, it's not dropping because it's weightless right there. And to the other side. Everything is just like we did last time, except it's right here before the drop. Another tool, exercise to get the muscle out of it, to release the muscle effort, muscle action. Okay, now let's do a slightly different arm swing, arm drop. Remember this one. So to one side. So on one leg, pushing from that leg up to center, down the other leg and hip. The arm action is the same as what we just did. The difference is that we're going side to side, leg to leg, and the arms are a little different. Instead of here, it's here. So we're shifting the weight and popping up, pressing down, send the wave up. And that's what sends our arms out. Don't think of sending the arms up, just popping off the ground or pushing into the ground. The wave coming up from that sends the arms out. Up will happen on its own. coming up, pushing to the ground. We'll fling the arms out. So we're familiar with this one to one degree or another. So what I'd like you to do is now same thing, elongate that 0 point. Elongate that place of hangingness. Elongate that point just before the drop. And emphasize that in your awareness. Hang out here. Hang out here. You can't hold it indefinitely because then you'll really be firing the muscles. But you can elongate that time. And we get better at staying in that small sliver of time with our awareness. Hang out. Hang. Release the abdomen. So we're consciously, artificially elongating that hang time. Mining what's in that moment, which is basically that freeness of not having any forces working on us, lightness. Okay, now try to remember that feeling as we go into stationary repulse monkeys. Arms are still hanging in that free zone. In that free zone just before they drop, where they are weightless. The arms are perpetually now in that zone, perpetually in that little segment. Perpetually just hanging before the drop. Always just floating in that 0 point. Okay, once more. Emphasize here. Just to kind of capture that feeling again. Good. Now, take that into cloud hands. Completely free.